So, I think we're going to start. Today we're going to talk about the unspoken. And I want all here on stage to share something that we all should know, but we kind of dare to ask the questions, or we don't dare to ask the questions. And before we start, who am I? I'm Marco Pfann, and I'm actually a business coach. And the big question here is, what's a business coach doing on stage at OFF? And because we are talking about the unspoken today, I want to share one quick story. I'm going to share something where I actually fucked up, in hopes that when I open up, everyone else feels good and feels free to share some vulnerable stories as well. So, what's my story? I used to run a motion design studio with branded TV stations all over the world. Long story short, we were invited to this huge pitch, and that we actually won, but they wanted to see us speak. They wanted us to present the whole thing to the board. So we flew to Asia. We had this amazing board meeting. Everything went amazing. But then, at least I thought it was amazing. We came out of that presentation, and our contact in the company actually yelled at us. He said that was the worst presentation ever. And the reason why that happened was because I'm a creative. I presented what I know to present. I presented the work, the craftsmanship, the art. I presented the process, the thinking behind it, like how we got the idea, everything that. The problem was we spoke to business people, to people high up, to chairmen of a multi-billion-dollar company, and they couldn't kill us. So what I've learned in that presentation is that what I assume to be the right thing to say might not be the thing people need to hear to understand the value of what we create. And this is one of the unspoken things that a lot of people know and intrinsically understand, but we don't know how to change that. So, and as a side effect, we still won the project, we still got the project, but they just cut the budget in half. And that was my learning, that if you want to make it, if you want to get the big budgets, if you want to make amazing work, you also need to understand how you get and how you secure the budgets to be able to make that work. So, because really no one has a clue what they are doing, nor big studios, nor small studios, and I hope I get some of those stories out today. And the reason why this is simply because the markets change all the time, right? And we have experienced this big time over the last couple of years. And what I believe is the true and sole reason why we as a creative community struggle, especially at times like these, is because we don't share. We don't share our business practices. We don't know what the next studio down the road is doing, how they pitch, how they do budgeting, how they do all those things. We kind of keep it all to ourselves. We keep it locked in. We don't share this, and this is why I believe the client has a leverage over us. Because if he would share, we as a community would grow, would be better, and actually could demand the kind of budgets we need to create outstanding work. And that's my thing now. I started a podcast a few years ago, and what I really truly want to share is to unfold and share the unspoken. And those are a few people I had on my podcast so far. Amazing people, a lot of people you know, and I hope that everyone here on stage will be on the next podcast too. And what I've learned on those podcasts is that once you give people the opportunity to share this, share the unspoken, share the things they never said, no one asked before, everyone is happy to share their insights, their experiences. So one of the things I want you to get out of this presentation today is to learn or to just have the mindset that it's okay to ask other people for help. So let's unfold the unspoken. I'm quickly going to introduce everyone here on stage. And luckily, we start with Vincent Lammers. He's the head, the ECD and the head of BAC Europe. And I just watched his presentation yesterday, which was amazing, and this is the quote really stuck with me because he showed it many times. I have to change to stay the same, which is, yeah, you should have watched his presentation. It was amazing. Next one is, what's that? Yep, Julien Vallet and Yves Duhamel, a diopter duo, they do amazing film work. And what I've learned from them, or something we talked about recently, was that it's okay to take risk, and that you need to take a risk to really have a breakthrough. Steffi Fang, what I remember from your presentation yesterday, which was amazing too, is that she's actually a self-taught artist. She's a self-taught designer, artist, fashion designer, and she calls herself a workaholic, which is quite unique in this new generation, I guess. And last but not least, I love this quote. That's obviously Joshua Davis. And if you have one foot in the past and one in the future, you're pissing on today. And yeah, I'm sure Joshua is going to tell a lot of stories today. I don't have to introduce him. That's the crew. And these are the questions I have prepared. So, the game, we're going to play a small game here. So, everyone here can pick a question and can pick someone on stage they want to ask the question to, because I want us to learn from each other. And those questions are just a reference, a frame. If you want to slightly change them, guys here on stage, feel free to do this. But this gives kind of direction. So the direction is business, is money, is the questions we don't dare to ask. So, who should we let start? Who wants to get started with the first question? Yeah?
I have one already for Vincent, because, seeing the talks at OFF, like, there are so many talented people, not only on stage, but, like, in the audience, and we know that because, like, we get the chance to have feedback from you guys, and it's always super interesting to connect. Bug being, like, a very well-known animation studio and all, I wonder how, in the sea of, like, talents like that, how do you pick the right ones?
It's different stories for many different reasons, but I think what we look for in talent, there's definitely an expectation of a very high skill level, as people, like, understand the basics, understand the fundamentals of either design or animation or technology. That is definitely the stepping stone. And then on top of that, I think it's really, we get a lot of portfolios that look like the stuff we've done already, and we have 600 people who do that already. So that's not really, like, it's very interesting to bring new voices and new faces and different types of perspectives into that team of people. That's one of the reasons why we opened up in Europe. It was very much sort of exposing Buck to this incredible pool of talent in Amsterdam and in London, and bringing new voices into that and trying to change to stay the same, to do new different types of work or do it in different ways. So I definitely think people that bring something of themselves or something unique, but at the same time can also flex into what projects sometimes need. But it's definitely that, and people who can position themselves as a collaborator. I think what is really, really important for us is there's always a lot of different people involved in projects, and it's very messy, very collaborative, but very messy and open, the process, and people who are okay with that. Like, there's no room for egos or, like, anything that's outside of trying to solve the problem we're trying to solve at hand. So it's that mindset, but the basic skill level of just keyframes, animation, design, all of that just needs to be top-notch.
Cool, thanks. I'm out. Thank you, guys.
No, you will be asked a question too.
I have a...
you can.
It's like a...
If you want to jump in.
Can I jump
You're losing
in?
control of this room already.
I already. Just two questions.
Let's
Just
send
do it.
Anarchy.
Is for Joshua.
Oh, shit.
The question 6. How do we beat the machine? I want to change the question.
Yeah.
It's more, I want to change the verb.
No.
It's more like, should we beat the machine, or I was also knowing you would say no, so my question is mostly why.
Yeah. You know, hi! Everybody, what are you doing here? I like the machines. And listen, if you want to walk out now about what I'm about to say, AI, it's fine. But I'm all in. I'm all in. I just heard this guy on stage saying like we were fighting, like AI was the enemy. No. And I was just thinking like, you know, this is probably like how painters felt when cameras showed up. And this is probably how mechanical designers felt when computers show up. If you're just skimming the surface of like what these things can do, you are way missing the bigger picture. I have spent the past couple of months like deep diving into AI, building like workflows, training it on my own work. Like everyone's all pissed off about the wrong reasons. And if you actually like look at what this can do, it has such immense potential as a tool in so many different ways. Where what I'm doing is I'm actually training AI on my own work. So I'm saying, hey, I'm the old white wizard. I have 30 years of work. You know, what happens when I take my work and say, you know, digest this and then reinterpret that back to me? It has been so fucking awesome that it does things that further fuel my creative potential. And I think if you have that mentality that everything is out to fuck you, then you're totally in the wrong creative industry. Because I think creativity should be about a shit ton of these things. Like, do you fuck up every day? Right? Like, do you fail every day? Like, the whole creative ethos is about sort of walking your path blind. And you should not be afraid of AI. I think we should not beat the machines. They're an amazing tool.
Yeah, I think so. And also, like, it's also embracing the world. Like, what we're gonna, instead of email, we're gonna have like a pigeon and, you know, send a little message. Like, if we want to evolve, we have to disrupt some stuff.
I do agree. I want to ask you though, because you're in a very privileged position because you have that 30 years of experience, and having gone through that and having done the work and being able to train something and having learned those fundamentals by assisting other artists over the 30 years and growing and doing those stepping stones. But being a young artist at the start of your career and suddenly there being a technology where you don't have 30 years to tap into to train a system or a large learning model, how do you approach it like that? Like how do you use it when the work at the moment is still being judged by those old standards, by those old perceptions of what is quality, what is creativity, the fundamentals of design that we also look for in those hires. Right. So it's like, for you, of course, I completely understand it. Awesome. 30 years, let's see what comes out. Let's play, let's fuck up, let's fail, because you have that privileged position. But as a younger artist coming in, 21 years, you just spent fucking a fortune on art education, learning like the fundamentals, and then there's this new technology popping up. How do you deal with that?
Right, but then you're saying, so I you know, I had student debt. I went to art school.
No.
I went for painting, like, but rules were meant to be broken. And I think if you're gonna go this whole thing like, oh, should I just spent like all this education about like staying in line, then fucking go become a gardener, because like you're not cut out for this. I think if you're not willing to sort of change and break the rules, and so what are we talking about? I've spent like the past 3 months just YouTubing Stable Diffusion. Like I've learned this in 3 months, right? And as a young person, like holy fuck you assholes. Do you understand that 30 years ago, like I barely had the internet? My first version of like Photoshop 4, I had to get off of a bulletin board. I had to dial in, and it was a cracked version. Like, you have it so fucking easy.
Vincent, to bounce on, if I may, like to bounce on that, not having 30 years of career as well, and starting by being frightened by these tools as well at the beginning.
Oh, that's what we need.
Thanks for that.
More light.
My time, Josh. No, what I think it is today is an opportunity to have these tools for almost free for almost everybody, like to learn from it and to just like use them. It's not like a niche place where it's only the rich and wealthy that has access to. It's like it's accessible for everybody. And the thing that you learn in art school, I mean, working with AI is also curating the stuff that comes out. So I think you need like some knowledge, you need some creativity to select and pick the right thing. I think it's part of it.
And if we also want to talk about exclusivity, think about all the people who have disabilities or maybe don't have the 30 years worth of experience can finally be creative in a way that's interesting, right? And like, we don't talk about that. We just talk about like, oh, it's coming for our jobs. But think about all the people now that now have this tool to say something, to express themselves in a way without having to know Cinema 4D for 10 years. So where's the conversation? Hi, I really want you to talk.
Absolutely, because you just mentioned Cinema 4D, and that is my baby right there. I've been learning it for 6 years, but even coming from an artist perspective, I use at least 5 to 9 different programs just to make anything 3D animation. And my hopes in the future is that AI will streamline that, because the amount that I pay for subscriptions, I'm just like, I'm broke every month. You know, I got bills to pay too. So yes, in terms of that, where AI can, you know, you type in a prompt and you can generate a 3D assets within seconds, we are going to have to be more like art directors, creative directors, and curators, like you said. And there is a beauty to that.
Let's talk about, I really like where this whole conversation is going, and I realize we're not going to make all the questions. Anyway, that's the wrong crowd here. Anyway, what you just said, the creative direction, right? It's like now, since the skill set is not, you don't need years to learn everything, right? You just said you learned cinema in 6 years.
Yes.
You learned all sorts of things in the last 30 years. Started out as a painter, now you're a technician, kind of wizard. And so what's the thing here? It's like, what does this make us? Are we now all creative directors? Is everyone now a creative director? And what does that mean then? Like, what's the job then?
It's a very good question, but we all have cameras on our phone. Does that make us all photographer? I don't know. I think there's, I mean, I don't know. It's one thing. Like, again, I think it's a matter of like, we have all the tools now. What do you put up there? What do you show your identity based on the realm of like possibilities today that were not there a year ago, but now are there? Like, what are we going to do about it? Just like let the ship go and stand on the deck and, you know, fuck, man, I just lost everything that I've learned in the last year. I think, Joshua, you made a good point. Like, things evolve, and I think like it's a little sad for like some people have to maybe reorient a bit like what they were doing, but like, I don't know, who really likes to keep people out of the green? If now it's like, it's something you can do right there, like in a matter of seconds, you have more time for creative freedom to just like explore with the element instead of working on getting an element ready to be, you know, absorbed by whatever project you're working on.
Yeah, and we don't have to wait anymore for a client to give us the budget to curate something we want to do, and we try to push the core creative to like brands. Now we can just like take out our sketchbook and do stuff that it would be really too costly.
But that also changes the perception of value and added value in what we create, is where sort of the perceptional high quality in the output becomes at the typing of a sentence or the press of a button. The value of the input, the why, the thinking, the personality, the voice that no one has ever heard being able to express itself, that's where the value is going to come from then. That's what is going to make the difference, is if everyone is going to be an artist or able to create high quality visual art or visuals stuff.
Great.
Is like, it's all about why is this different? What is the thinking behind it? What is it saying? What is the thought, the input?
That shouldn't matter. Whatever your intention is, if you're caring about what other people are thinking about you, then...
No, it's not about what other people are thinking about you. It's what you think. Like, what are you expressing with your art? If everyone can make it look beautiful, then what is the differentiator? What is going to create
emotion,
story? What is going to be high quality? What is going to solve a problem?
I'm not solving any problems. I like orange, I like purple, I like fucking triangles. Okay? I am not telling you anything. That's not my bag. Cool. I make pretty shit. So So I think it just really depends on what the intention is. So if you're a storyteller, right, you're going to navigate towards the tools that help best convey that story. I don't think this turns everybody into an art director. If you look at what AI does, it's literally generating nothing out of noise. And how you direct that noise is just as fucking hard as using Photoshop or Illustrator, okay? And this is probably why I got frustrated with Stable Diffusion, was because that lack of control. So that's why I switched to to Midjourney. That's why I switched to Stable Diffusion, is because I'm using something called Comfy UI. It's a node-based environment. You can build out these really insane workflows, and it is just as hard, if not harder, than doing stuff like in Cinema or Photoshop or Illustrator. So I think it's just all about intention, and I think it's best, like, you know, you have to. Here's the thing. Okay. 30 years ago, I knew I wanted to get into programming. Computers kind of just happened. They sucked. I literally bought like every computer book, programming language book on the market, and I got to page 6, and I did the Hello World program in every language on the planet. And what I found out is that I knew one thing in a lot of things. And it wasn't until I just said, you know, Perl's not for me. Tickle TK is not for me. That's for the nerds. Right? And I could sort of isolate it down, and then I focused on this one thing that I felt like best expressed how I wanted to communicate this fucking crazy shit that occupies my head. Right? And once I could sort of say, okay, cool, this is my intention, these are the stories I'm trying to tell, I'm gonna become like a master of like one thing, then that's when I really flourished. If AI happens to be the tool that helps best convey that journey, then do it, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and I think also, like, when you are talking about the fact that now you can, you have an advantage because during 30 years you made, like, images that now you can work together, is that now everybody can do it in way less than 30 years, so you can develop your artistic voice, like, way faster, I think. So that's
well,
cool.
especially for you two, like, how has this changed storyboarding? Like, thinking about how you visualize a film before you shoot it. Huh?
You asking me or asking him?
I'm asking anybody that wants. I'm fucking asking anybody.
I don't think there's yet a storyboarding tool that's like as accurate as, you know, you'd like it to be, but like to brainstorm with like visual environment or like lighting or like character design and stuff like that, like Midjourney has been like, you know, the go-to tool for us. You know, at the beginning of a project, we kind of brainstorm with this tool, and it spits back like probably 95% of the time. It's not good, but it's interesting because it's like talking with someone. You're talking about an idea, brings in something, and then you just bounce back on it.
I quickly want to hear Steffi's opinion on that, because you're working on a very futuristic area.
There is one thing that I want to say about what you were saying, 95% of it's bad. Because I have been, you know, for concepting, AI has been very good. But it can be quite stereotypical in the way that when I search for my work, I'm looking for, you can see from my style, it's traditional Chinese, it's streetwear. So when I'm generating images, it's not actually reflecting my own style. And maybe it's by the way that you write your prompts, which is super important.
Okay.
But one thing that I do worry about is the amounts that what we see from social media and from the internet online, and how that really influences the way that we write our prompts. Because, again, the algorithm will only show what you're interested in. And actually, we kind of almost go tunnel vision, because when we scroll on social media especially, or if it's Pinterest, or if it's Instagram, you're scrolling, and the algorithm already knows what you already like. So there's just one thing when I think about AI, I'm also comparing it to social media, where it's dangerous to think that that's the only source of inspiration.
Horizon, is that what you're saying?
I think it's just more important that anyone who's using AI to not just solely focus on AI and always take from outside inspiration as well. It's like a balance.
I'd love to.
Really important, just getting a broader view, because like we talked about it the other day, and I have the tendency to describe commercial creative industry as a human centipede that sort of eats shit and everything inspires each other constantly. And it's the same thing. Everyone shows up in the same mood boards. It's the same Pinterest boards, and trying to break that. And I think the trick is different tools. Don't stick to one thing, and the solution is in the process. And then AI can definitely have a role in the process. It shouldn't be the one thing you do. And it's figuring that out. And at the moment, it's tricky to see because it's such a vastly different way of creating imagery than we're used to, going through those steps.
I got you, baby.
It's completely putting it on its head, but that's also really exciting and interesting because we should be challenging the way we do things constantly. And I think even at Buck is like, even though we might be known for certain styles or things, is very rarely a style is the starting point of a project. It's the end result of a process and sort of all figuring it out and throwing things in and drawing and playing and generating and seeing what comes out of it. And the end result is a certain style, but we rarely start a project by saying it needs to look like this.
That's what you're saying too, right? You go through this process. It's not like you just one prompt and you have it. Like you actually have a process too, like what he just described.
There's no shortcuts. It's like if you think AI is a shortcut, it's not necessarily a shortcut to achieve something else. It's just a different way of doing something. And it changes the way we create imagery. And it can plug into different places. And it gives an immense power to people who might not have those skills. There's a few things I'm thinking about a lot with, like I said, how we look at new talent, the things we value. What I said about hiring people is that maybe in 5 years or 10 years, we might have a massive talent deficit because those fundamentals, people are jumping over that. People are taking shortcuts to creating really cool, beautiful things without actually learning about shot composition, fundamentals of a bouncing ball, keyframes, the human anatomy, how do you lay out a shot, like color theory, all those kind of things that sound so boring, but actually you use on a daily basis without even thinking when you're working on these projects. And if that is not something that is part anymore of someone's journey in their career or in their pursuit of art, I'm not sure what's going to happen.
I think we're in the same world in terms of like when we do commercial and specific like story has to happen, specific product has to show up at this specific time in this kind of framing. The tools are not there yet, and it's like we still need like the traditional way of traditional. I mean, it's been shifting for 20 years anyway, so like it's always shifting. But I feel like there's a differentiation between like achieving some hard work for yourself, where you can explore and like be surprised by the result and just like keep pushing in this direction, versus like creating something that needs to be specifically boarded.
It's to communicate something. And then like even your question on storyboarding, like there's sort of even an unspoken rules, like storyboards need to be as crappy and fast as possible. It's like it's fucking stick drawings and this to lay out the shot and figure out what it looks like, something that communicates to the team as clear and fast as possible, and that's less noise. So if we suddenly get briefs or start generating photoreal storyboards, everyone's like, what the I don't know what this is. Where's the room to improve this? It's like we need to still leave room for that process. So if you suddenly start there already, that is a completely different way of approaching it.
Yeah, and like you're talking about storyboard, but also like in pitch deck in general, something that is really nice is that like the agencies, normally they're like, I want something that looks like that, and they said that's it, and it's all other people's work, So now you can really just invent something and tell the client or the agency like this is what we would like to do. That is something totally different. So maybe there's going to be more, comment on dit, comme variété, dans le fond?
Variety? Like,
can you say that in English? Yeah, in general, hopefully.
I want to do a quick vibe check with the audience. Are you happy to keep talking about AI? Is that something that's of interest for you?
Anything else? Which question do you want to have answered?
You have a question.
Budget.
Budget. Big budgets. Who wants you?
Oh, I'm going to start this one.
Go for it.
Spoiler alert, the more money you get, the more in pain you're going to be. Just want to let you know, if Taylor Swift calls, and she's got Taylor Swift money, she's going to have a lot of fucking changes. Okay? You got this guy over here who has very little money. You get to do whatever the fuck you want because they're not paying you a lot of money. So I have found the higher the budget, the more miserable I am. Because they're just, it should be pink. We don't like yellow. It's triangles. Did I not tell you how much I love triangles? The more money, the more pain you're going to be in. I would much rather do the low-paying things because I know they can't say shit. I just get to do triangles and purple and orange.
Does
I
that answer your
differ from
question?
you.
We're done.
I disagree.
I want to get a different perspective because you're dealing with big budgets almost every day, I guess.
I definitely have a different perspective.
Tell me.
I think it has to do with, like, similar to what you said at the beginning, and it's a similar story I have with the first job I ever got to pitch on to direct, which was a little animated piece for a Dutch pudding brand, and I was so excited that we got to do full animation and characters, and I made a whole pitch, and I did all these character designs and the storyboards. I went completely nuts. And presenting to the marketing director, all this and that, showed all the thinking. We're going to do miniature sets, because I have this obsession with miniature sets. He loves triangles, I love miniature sets. And then suddenly, halfway through the presentation, this marketing director shuts me down and says, "Oh, great, yeah, love all this. Yeah, I don't know, love all this, but when's the last time you ate our pudding?" And I just, sorry, what? And it's like the key reason of why you're in that room or why they're hiring you is to do something for them. You're solving a problem or you're servicing something. Don't forget about the project. Don't forget about why you're being hired. And it's at the end of the day, they speak a different language and they're just figuring out how to sell more puddings. And they sort of discovered that creatively or maybe in a story form or with some fun characters, it helps them sell puddings. And don't forget about that thing. And I think the access to bigger budgets is figuring out which problem they are trying to solve and figuring out the best tools to solve that higher problem. And that isn't always creating a cool film. That cool film is part of something that they are using to solve that bigger problem or communicate that bigger thing.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah,
You love that.
but you also have to understand, like, there's a huge shift here. Like, understand that he works for a studio with, like, a lot of people. I'm wearing Crocs. And so I have to tell you a story. I went out to lunch with Stefan Sagmeister, and I said, "Stefan, they flew me to Barcelona, and I'm at this OFF festival, and I'm speaking in front of a bunch of people, and I'm looking at everyone's shoes, and, like, there's people wearing, like, Louis Vuitton shoes and, like, Gucci shoes, and they've got, like, Louis Vuitton bags, and I'm wearing Crocs. So how do I get rich?" And he says, "You don't." He says, "You don't." He says, "Those people are going to make way more money than you, but you'll probably be a lot happier." So another thing, unspoken, is, man, there's been some years I've made $8, and there's some years I've made $100,000. And money for me has never been a driving force with budgets. I just want to keep making. I am a studio of one person. I have a barn in my backyard. I walk 50 feet out of my back deck, and I sit in a barn, and I laugh myself silly because I get to make weird shit, as maybe you know. So how to get big budget things, you have to maybe decide if that's even something that you want, right? Like, I would be happy just to make $50,000 a year if I could keep doing triangles and orange and purple, right? So it's a matter of perspective. Some people, they want to build a huge portfolio. They want to go work for a studio. They then maybe want to start a studio. That ain't me. So you too can wear Crocs, and maybe you'll be happier. I don't want to do pudding.
Dude, I love pudding. No, but it's like he's taking care of himself and is like, it's doing what he wants to do and figuring out a way to achieve that. For us, we've got 500s of him taken care of, and we all want them to have a mortgage and a house and a happy life and a barn. And figuring out how to do that at scale for all these people to have art as a pursuit, to live a healthy and happy life. Like, I want all of our buggers to be able to have a family and buy a house. So that's part of what we're trying to do.
that's
So
a
there's
great conclusion,
different
yeah.
needs and different things you're solving. And like that scratches an itch that we all sometimes feel, and I love that pursuit, but it's definitely a different thing and a different way to approach it. And it's different conversations you're having.
It kind of starts with a question, what do you want to have? Like, where do you want to go? Do you want to open a studio? And having a studio, you can still be happy. It's not like, right? It's like you
I'm
can't
very
You
happy.
can't be happy. Look at him. He's
Hey,
happy.
This is a good lead into 7, so I'd like to go on to 7 because, like, what's the biggest risk you took? And it relates to your thing. I was working for a studio where I was making, I think, like $125,000 a year, and my first job was Volkswagen. And they said, we want you to do this like weird shit that you're doing, but it's like for Volkswagen, and our budget's like $40,000. The biggest risk I took was I left that studio, went out on my own, and just did. I was like, how do I make $40,000 last an entire year? You know, can I still play Final Fantasy and eat? Right? And so I would say like the biggest risk that I took was actually leaving studio life for like way half than the money that I made to see if Josh Davis could be Josh Davis forever. It's been 30 years. So that's probably like the biggest risk that I took. I would love to
Awesome.
hear some other risks.
I know you, oh yeah.
Sorry, I'd love to jump on that because now that you said you're a man of one, I'm also working by myself as well as a freelancer. And
Give it
that's the biggest risk I've also taken as well. And actually jumping in, if you guys are also thinking about freelancer, is like, can I actually make enough money to survive the whole year? So for me, actually jumping back to the previous question, I actually found that the bigger the budget, the more respect they have for me and the bigger the commitment. So I've actually enjoyed it more compared to the smaller budgets, if I'm honest. And so it really depends project by project because if there's a brief that comes in, let's say, and it's about cat food or a cat, let's say somebody wants me to design digital fashion for a cat, let's say. It's not my favorite thing to do. It's not what I aim to do either.
What do you have against cats?
I don't know.
Yeah. Why are you going to drag cats into this?
Listen, I'm more of a dog person. If it was a dog brief, then yes, I would take that. But, you know, I don't dream about dressing cats, let's just put it that way. So let's say this brief came in, I would charge double and then see if they are willing to commit to that and, you know, to include my craft in that, then sure, we can go for that. But what I usually find is that the more people who respect my craft as a digital fashion artist, and it's quite interesting because this space is so new. And I've worked with very interesting clients, whether it's like a whiskey company. It was very weird. It was alcohol and digital fashion, not the usual combo that I would think of. I've also worked with like technology companies, Dell and Lenovo, for example. I've worked with Gucci. You know, that intersection of fashion also works well, but it's very interesting. So it depends who you find as a client, and it depends on their commitment to you and whether that project is also interesting for you, whether it's for your portfolio or whether it's just like a mutual interest you two have.
Next time you have a cat shop, please call her. And I'd like to, because I know we talked about taking risks and having a breakthrough, right? So could you share the story, like you took a big risk early, no, not early, but a few years ago. What was that?
I mean, I don't know if, we've been freelancing as a duo. The duo has shifted into like a smaller design studio at some point, and then we decided we would go on, the two of us, instead of doing a lot of like administration, like managing people and employees' expectation we wanted to create. I don't know if it's like such a big risk, but always being a freelancer, it's like when we decided to start the studio, that meant like investing some money into hiring people and also making sure that we can provide, you know, a salary for everyone. So that's we're kind of a mix in between you two guys in terms of like, you know, it's like if we do too much commercial, I feel like we're like this toy on the shelf of a toy store with a crushed soul. And it's just like, oh, we don't belong here. We need a balance. Like we have to recalibrate with some more artistic project. And so we've always been trying to balance this thing where it's like, okay, do we like, and it kind of gets back to the previous question. Sorry, Marco, but like, it's like when he's like, fuck it, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let's control anyway.
No.
No, it's like when we take a project, there's always two different reasons. Is it because we need the money to make this project, or is it because we need to kind of like feed our inner artistic, you know, soul within us, where we need to make...
Feed the kids or feed the soul.
Feed the kids or the soul, yeah.
Or the two cats.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
is there a way in between? Can you feed kids into your soul? Is that?
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, it's been
You're doing
like
that, right?
almost
It's-
20 years now.
that's
So,
like what you do, so, okay,
it's always to be honest, like like every year is a risk. Like we've been having like shitty years for the last two years because there was no project. The war in Ukraine was like bad because like advertiser had less like resources and they didn't want to advertise that much. So a lot of shit like came. And I'm sure you guys also felt like the COVID and everything. I don't want to get in there, but like it's always like risky to say, I wake up tomorrow, there's no paycheck for me until like, we attract a client, we attract a project and it could be just a personal project that we do that's going to attract client, but it's just like a balance.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
And it's true, like you never know what happens. Like we're from Canada, but we never work for any Canadian whatsoever, nothing. So it's always the States or Europe. So when Canada, like, it just, like, stopped the border, like, nobody can get out, we were like, what the fuck? Like, how long is it gonna, like, we cannot work? So yeah.
So,
What was the question?
quick check with the crew. You guys need to tell me when we have to cut this off, because I think this could go forever, and I lost control here. However, I want the audience to vote for the next question. One. What's that? Does great work really sell itself? Oh, that's going to be fun. Anyone has an opinion on that?
I do.
In the ocean?
don't
Oh, you
know.
have?
No,
Please,
you-
please. No, go, please.
So gracious, thank you. I mean, in my opinion, you can be the best artist, technical skills, it could be beautiful, but if you don't know how to market yourself or to sell your work or have the audience to sell it to, then in my opinion, no. So I think it goes hand in hand, because there's one thing about being a great artist and being about a good creative, but a lot of it in our work is that we have to be very social. You have to talk to people, and even if it's just like showing it to your friends and family, even if it's just like marketing to people you've never met before. I think having these soft skills and being able to do that is very important.
Okay, so no. Good? What do you guys?
Okay.
No, sorry.
Let's hear it. Let's hear
The
it.
soft skills, Marco,
Hear
the
it,
soft
hear it.
skills.
Soft skill, yeah. I knew that. That's what my wife tells me all the time. But yeah, I finally got it. But I mean, let's hear another perspective.
You had a perspective.
Joshua.
No, I'm aligned with you. I mean, it's like if you do a painting and you just like pin it on your wall at home, nobody's gonna see it, nobody's gonna care about it. So, and there's so many like, I mean, we're all on social media. Like, I don't like personally like it that much, but like, there's no way that you're gonna like evolve if like nobody sees your works.
So yes, I totally agree, and I get what you're saying. But now I wanna ask Vincent.
No.
Yes.
Don't ask me. No, the answer
you
is
at the
no,
top.
no, it doesn't sell itself. Well, there's a
Okay.
shit ton of assumptions in this question, because what is great work and what are you trying to sell? Is like, are you selling what the work is doing? Like it's in a certain style and that's what it's selling? Is the artist trying to get more work in that style, or is it the commercial, and is it selling a product, and is the product being successful? It's like, that's the whole thing. Is like, it doesn't necessarily sell itself, but it depends on what you're trying to sell it as. Like, what are you trying to gain from it? What's the problem it's solving? Do you want to get more business for your business or as an artist, or is it doing something else? But
You're saying you're not solving any problems, right? It's like,
Yeah, but I have a real problem with that question, because the reason why I have a problem with it is it sets up that everything you do has to have some intrinsic greatness to it in order to do what? Yeah. And so I would say I've spent 30 years sketching, and I have yet to make something great. I've gotten close, but yeah, I think that puts too many boundaries. And I suffer from imposter syndrome. So, I wake up every day and I look at shit online, and I'm just like, why? So that question cannot enter my head, because it just assumes that if it's not great, then you can't show it to people. And I'm all about here's the weird shit I do. And
it might be work that people think is absolutely great, and it wins a shit ton of awards, but it cost you your fucking marriage, and it broke your soul, and it was the hardest fucking thing you've done in your entire career. It's like, that's not a thing. So it's like great work. It's a very strange statement to make.
Here, listen, my quote when I started, it's stupid, but I love it. It's this idea like if you have 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, you're pissing on today. And this is what this means, is it's not to forget about what's happened, because it's good to have perspective about what's happened, but it's also really dangerous to have these ideas about greatness. It's scary to have these ideas about what the future holds, because today's pretty fucking awesome. And my fear is that people are waiting for this like auto kick ass button, and it's not gonna happen. And you know, like I've had people say like, Beeple, like why did Beeple get $100 million in 1 year? Do you know how much fucking work that guy put in? Do you know that he, not only has he done an everyday, but he did an everyday like on the day he was getting married, like 15 minutes before his wedding? Like, and you say, why him? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have today. You have today. And here's the thing. I want to fucking meet you people. I want to hear what you're doing. I want us to get inspired. I want us to get energized. The problem is what the fuck happens when you leave here? What happens 3 days later? That's the important shit. And I want to, you know, today, motherfucker. Today is the day to kick ass. Don't worry about greatness. Don't worry about greatness. And don't worry about money.
What else?
And number 5, fuck up a lot.
So what do we have left here? 4. What was 3?
3 we kind of did.
Okay, let's do 4. We kind of did 3. Who wants to jump in? Number 4 is, if you could start again, how would you compete? That's the real question.
Mine's easy. The first thing I would do is I would have read Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist, day 1, and realized the only person I'm competing with is myself.
Okay, we have this question covered next. But it's truly a good book. It is.
Has anyone read The Alchemist? Fuck yeah, right? You know, we're homies. That book was awesome.
You have a lot of experience, right? You have been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
You just joined Buck like 3 years ago?
3 years ago, yeah.
So how would you start? How would you compete?
So it's a very strange question because it's not an option. And I would do sort of the same thing I did. Is like very similar to what Josh was saying. Is like I also never really had a goal of, oh, I want to be a creative director or I want to be an art director. I just tried to do really well what was right in front of me and have fun with it and do new things. And it's like the first fucking few years of my career when I got an internship, I suddenly had a render farm and I was there every night, every weekend, rendering shit with all the sliders to the right to see what it came out and looked like. And sort of all the subsurface renders and everything. And then they banned me from the render farm because I was hugging it too much and sort of got into trouble. But it's like, it's try to do really well what was right in front of you, and that sort of becomes a stepping stone. And I did little experiments and 5-second stories, and I just made shit and learned from it. And it wasn't towards a goal or towards anything. It was just to step and retrospectively, sort of looking back, you sort of see that path. But in the moment, it's all about what Josh is saying. It is about today, what you can make today, what you can do today, and are you going to start the day happier than you started it? And let's hope that you have at least the same day next day.
Yeah, and you're just gonna get surprised. Like the reason why we started to do video is just because we didn't have money to do like not real installation, but with, you know, harder material. So we just like sculpt with paper, but then it took like all night. So we were like, what are we gonna do? Like we're gonna just have a stop motion like of us like disintegrating it and putting it in reverse just to have like something super simple. And that's how we started to do video. It was never in
it's
the
just
plans.
passion.
Yeah.
And I relate to what you're saying, Vincent. It's like, do what you like. There's an audience for everything. Like I walk in Montreal with my mother. She collects postcard and flyers that I swear it's like so ugly, and I'm like, she likes to do scrapbook with it. but she likes it. Like, I mean, some people did it, like, with hopefully pride and
Don't
they're-
show your moms.
No, no. It's just like I think like it starts with passion. If you want to sustain, there's no other way. I mean, you're gonna burn out if you don't like what you're doing in 20 years. It's not gonna work, even if you make money. I think.
Steffi, you're in a new field. How do you compete?
I got one word, YouTube.
YouTube.
YouTube. I learned everything from YouTube. You can learn anything from YouTube. And same thing, like, I didn't dream about being a digital fashion artist. I actually started in graphic design, went into 3D, and thank God for those YouTube tutorials, because I wouldn't have been able to get those technical skills without it. But the passion part, the part where you practice every single day, because if you guys have ever tried 3D, it will look shit in the beginning. It will always look bad, but you persevere, you keep practicing, maybe every week, every day if you can. I don't do it every day. I know you were talking about people doing it every day. I don't know how people do that. But if you have that perseverance and that passion, sure, go for it. And in a year's time, you're going to get better at it.
Everything's on YouTube, and get YouTube Premium, because like that's the best money you're gonna spend.
I've been so in doubt.
For the no
because it feels
ads,
so
was that
strange.
it?
Say 5 seconds every video. That's a lot. Yeah.
It amounts to something.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So I think we have to cut off. I just got the sign here. I would love to do this forever. Maybe we can repeat this someday. So, what did we learn today? What I want to leave you, with one question. I have one question for you that I want you to ask yourself, because everyone here got on that stage because they just did what they wanted to do and they had a vision. They might not know where they want to go, but they have kind of a direction. And that question I want to ask you is where you want to be in 10 years. And that's...
Barn in Ohio.
When you think about where you want to be in 10 years, obviously, it's a big goal, it's a big vision, you will have a lot of questions. So my message for you is dare to ask those questions. Find people that can answer your questions. Ask people like the people we have on stage today. Go out there, because I'm sure everyone here would be happy to answer a few questions if they are sincere, if you have a vision, if you want to go somewhere, right? Don't ask questions like, how does cinema work? How does Midjourney work? And I know you actually have a channel, right? You have a channel where he actually has a channel, a Discord channel, where he does answer a lot of those 3D, technical, generative AI stuff. Did I say that right?
Sure.
I did not, okay. Good. Anyway, that's my message for you, and that's it. I hope you had fun today, and if you have any more questions, I'm sure the girls are around for a few more minutes. Thanks. And one more thing that I wanted to say is that I really want to thank Hector and his team, because they put up an amazing show. I also want to thank everyone here on stage, and I want you to give them a big applause for today.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, thanks. We're done.
Thank you.